Hello Virgo friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my video, Virgo January 2021 Astrology Must Knows. We've got an epic start to a brand new year, and this new year will feel like a new year. Sometimes when we start a new year with a retrograde, which we're not this year, it doesn't quite feel like shiny and new and with momentum, but this year will be totally different. This year we're going to feel very much like it's a real new year, a clean slate, and with things moving forward, possibly at a rate faster than you can process. So this started to rev up as Mars went direct in November and got really fast moving with the eclipses at the end of November into December. And now in the beginning of January, we have all the planets moving forward. So none of the planets are in retrograde. And that even includes most of the, almost except one, all of the star goddess asteroids. So we really have a lot to celebrate with this forward movement and the release of stagnation. Now that's not to say that there won't be events that happen that might restrict mobility or create the topic of freedom to be out in the forefront, because we do have an epic outer placement connection with Jupiter squaring Uranus. And that can bring all kinds of things, and I'm going to actually go into quite a lot of depth with that topic later in the video. But I just wanted to present it now because this is a time where in the first half of January, all systems are still go, okay? So sign your contracts, make your moves, make your big decisions, do your big launches, get this work done in your house, and all of those types of things that that you might need some really strong forward-moving energy for. You want to lock it in. Now, mid-month, things start to change because we start sliding towards Mercury retrograde, which officially begins at the end of January, but we get deeper into it with every day we pass, after around the 15th of January. And that's also when we've got this big aspect, and actually we have some pretty notable clashes all month. I'll talk about that. But you will be getting more eclipse news as well. So this is just a month of news and a month of movement. There are many things to celebrate amidst the challenges though, so let's talk about those first. One of the things to celebrate is that Mars is finally leaving Aries. And this is exciting for Virgos because Aries is not at a great angle for Virgo. So since middle of 2020, like July, August, when Mars got into Aries, it's been in Aries all this time because it was retrograde in Aries. So it was there an inordinately long amount of time, very unusual. And that whole time, it was making difficult angles to Virgo placement. So there could have been increased frustration, increased, aggravation, anger from you, towards you, just delays. Of course, the world had a lot of delays with us all experiencing these retrogrades, but because Mars is the planet of motion, movement, progress, it's been particularly tinkering with the Virgo placement. So if you felt some things at a standstill and you just kind of have reached an impasse, you might really start to notice things moving forward in a major way once Mars is direct, but now here once Mars gets into Taurus, which is in January. Okay, and so for all of, once we get in about a week or so into January, for the rest of January, all of February into the beginning of March, Mars is going to make that trine, the most favorable angle in all of astrology. I call it a kiss, is going to kiss your Virgo placement. So a kiss from Mars means movement. It means progress. It means resolution of conflict. It means healing of anger. It means feeling better. In some cases, higher serotonin levels. So hopefully this will bless you, and hopefully you will feel it. You are going to be getting these kisses from both ends because the other earth sign besides Virgo and besides Taurus is Capricorn, and the personal planets of the Sun and Mercury and then eventually Venus are all going to move through Capricorn. And when they do, they're all going to give you those trying kisses. Okay, so a kiss from the Sun looks like amplification, firing up, creativity, passion. A kiss from Mercury is good news or a project finished. Venus, a kiss from Venus. Venus rules love and beauty and money and self-esteem. So a self-esteem boost, recognition, all of these things can come from all of these kisses, and you have them coming from so many different places. So that's very exciting. Okay, let's see. Those are all on my celebration list for you. Let's see if something else was on there. Okay, so you're going to have a very strong focus on your 4th house, which is your house of home and family. So real estate, buying homes, selling homes, expanding your home, home projects, anything having to do with your family, or housing, or home-based business, or a business that's already out of your house, or it's about houses, like say you're in construction or you're in landscaping, things like that. Those kind of things are really going to have a lot of focus this month. And if you have to move or have to sign papers, again, the first half of the month is more clear, because once we get into that Mercury retrograde, plans change, we see things differently, we don't have all the information, and it just gets a little bit more kind of short term and a little bit more unsure. So you've got that first half of the month to try to gel some things in, and just know that if things seem to be starting to gel towards the end of the month, they may get called into question into February, and if they're meant to happen, they will happen, but if they're not, you'll find something else to replace that, probably March or April. Now, it is also important to know if you are not quite feeling ready to launch your big thing or do your big whatever you've got, whatever you're working on, then don't hurry it, because the aspects this month, even though it's wide open, as I said, and there will be leaps and springs forward in many areas, the aspects, especially this Jupiter and Uranus one, really can lead towards like extravagance that doesn't serve well, or making a big commitment, or over-promising, over-committing, overdoing. And you don't want to lock in a big project with that energy, if you're not sure of it, or if you feel like you're on a high, like, wow, this is so good, I can do all this, yes, no problem, and you're not seeing any obstacles. Fortunately, Virgos, you are good at seeing the obstacles. You're really realists in the way that you look at the practical matters. And so that's going to be really helpful to you this month. People, like my placement Sages and other signs, we tend to not look at the obstacles. And that's going to make this month a little bit more difficult for people with those placements. But for Virgo placements, if you can just keep your natural ability to have reserved enthusiasm, that's the word that I really like for this. About if people are trying to give you the world on a platter, there is a chance that wonderful things can happen now. There are a lot of chances, really. I mean, major material manifestation is a very big must-know and theme for this month for everybody, but especially Virgos, because all of these placements in Capricorn and Mars moving through Taurus, those are earth signs. Those are like gelling things into reality. But there's also this diciness. We've got clashes with Mars, Saturn, Uranus, Jupiter, and then Mercury is going to come and square, Uranus, and then the Sun is going to go and do that. So it's like we've got a lot of clashes this month that can put people at points of conflict. And the big aspect, the Jupiter-Uranus aspect, can be one where people feel really compelled to do something crazy. I'll get more into that, but it's tying into what I'm talking about now, so I just want to mention it. So if you can just kind of keep your realist eye and tone things back, then you'll probably be happy that you did. Okay, so the sector having to do with your international things, your immigration, travel, trips, travel for the future, just in case everything's in lockdown at this point, which it might be. But this sector of the international scene is going to be very strongly highlighted for you. So don't be surprised if an international person or online connection or opportunity for a trip, if that's appropriate in the circumstance, winds up having some big pieces for you. There also might have those things called into question because some of the angles that are being made with Uranus are actually challenging ones. But there is one nice one. So, it's just kind of a mixed bag. Another sector that's really highlighted a lot for you all, and this has been for the long term, you all have been hearing me talk about this for the long term, but it's also in the short term now, is your creativity and your children's sector and your, being out in front of people. So acting and athleticism and things like that. I also call this house, the 5th house that's being lit up for you, the bucket list house. And it's also the house of fun and hobbies. So things that you're doing just for your fun, things that you're doing just for relaxation. Or in this case, it could be that a hobby that you have, you might be ready to turn it into a business. Or you might have to turn it into a business because of what's going on with the economy. And the economy is definitely, in the United States, at least for sure, is like, we definitely have some problems coming there. So it's going to take the resourcefulness that humans have in order to create new industry and create new options. So for this particular series of clashes, we want you to maintain that realist slant, but we also want you to use your creativity to think of ways that can get around a problem. So if you keep racking your head against a wall, like, I'm an engineer, I'm out of work, therefore I don't have money, therefore I have a problem, and then it's just black and white like that. You'll want to go into a lot of the gray areas of, okay, well, I have the mind of an engineer, so therefore I can, create things and build things, and what needs to be built at this point, what would serve the communities to build, things like that, things that are community based. And anything that, for online, this could be online, or this can be like in-person local. Those areas are going to hold a lot of promise for you. Another sector that's starting to light up, and this is going to be more for those of you towards the beginning of this sign, so like the August born or 0 to 9 degrees, you all are really going to see this health, healing work sector start to light up. But the rest of you are not far behind, and you might start to feel the whispers of what I'm talking about coming, because Jupiter is going to blaze through that house, which means that every Virgo placement over the course of January, February, March into April you're going to have what I'm talking about. And since Jupiter is an outer planet, sometimes you feel this months before. So even though it's only the August born that are in the most direct focus of this in January, you might feel, the rest of you might feel this coming, and it might be soon to follow. Okay, so changing your diet, and radical changes to your diet, things like that. Anything having to do with surgeries. In general, there's better energy for that in the first half of the month, because as Mercury goes into retrograde, things get a little more dicey for that. But of course, if you have an emergency, you have to just do whatever. But I'm talking about optional or planned. Like lab work, getting all of your medical diagnostics done, things involving pets. The first half of the month especially is particularly good for getting a new pet friend, or anything working with animals, even like starting a business working with animals, something like that. Okay, let's see what else. Okay, so you are also going to have things having to do with your daily routine, okay? And this is all stuff that's Virgo based. Like usually Virgos have a daily routine, and that's like their center, their grounding cord. But you might notice some changes to it, some more freedom in it, or more discipline in it, or just like what you do day to day might wind up being very much changed. And if you want to make changes, this is an amazing time to do that, especially again in the first half of the month. But anything that you're feeling drawn to, you can experiment with. The second half of the month turns more into like an experimental time, where you kind of try things on, you're not really committing to them as much. But if you feel strongly about something in the first half of the month, as far as like a membership to online yoga classes, or something that's based in your health and wellness, that has to be a commitment, things like that would be better in the first half of the month, unless it's a short-term commitment like a month to month, in which case the second half of the month is fine. So I'm just trying to help you understand the difference between the energies in the first half of the month and the second half of the month, so as things shift, you can roll along with the natural rhythms. Okay, so let's get down into the nitty-gritty of understanding this Jupiter square Uranus aspect. Unlike the upcoming in February Saturn square Uranus aspect, we're only going to have one of these Jupiter-Uranus aspects this year. The Saturn one will have 3 times, and we'll talk about that more next month. That's going to be a very big deal too. But it's important to understand, like, there are must-knows about this transit because it is a biggie. Whenever the outer planets come in close connection, or exact connection in this case, it definitely brings notable things globally down to the individual level, okay? So the first must know here is that you will feel very anxious, okay? The energy of Uranus really rules like the nervous system in some ways. So it's like when there's an aspect with Uranus, we often feel like our fingers stuck in an electric socket. And so the anxiety levels run super high, and those are going to have to be managed. So you just need to know that going into this month, even though we've already had, a long series of that going on, this month is going to be like that as well, okay? The second thing is that even though, as I mentioned earlier, since all the planets are moving forward, it is a good time to move forward and to make decisions and to do important things, especially in the first half of January before Mercury starts to slide into its retrograde process. But there's a caution here with the Jupiter square Uranus because people can feel really, really, really compelled to do crazy things. And some of those, if there's like a calculated risk involved, could turn out really well. But there could be an interference with the discernment process of figuring out what those things are. So like extravagance, erratic behavior, because Jupiter rules excess. So like big purchases, big commitments, big, trying to cut something off or big decisions about like kind of making a clean slate, a clean cut, and then moving forward, like trying to cut ties completely. There is some caution with that. So even though the stars are moving forward and it is good to make these big decisions in some ways, if you can leave your lifeline intact, if you can leave an option, for holding on to some of the old stuff until you can see how the new stuff shakes out, because you might wish you had some of that stuff to go back to, that's a very, very major must know for this aspect. If you've got that option to like wait a little bit until the tensions aren't as high, wait a little bit to see if you can find a bridge option that includes both of the things that might be in question. It's just can be a little bit sketchy making a clean cut at this time with this aspect. People are also very, receptive to other people's intentions. So whether it's on your personal level with somebody close to you, or whether it's in a level of like a leader or a religious leader or a political leader trying to exert or say things, people are going to be very open to suggestion at this time with this aspect. And actually, there are known cult leaders that have had this aspect in their natal charts, like the capacity to woo somebody over into something that seems so exciting, like it's going to solve all the problems. Just be very wary of anyone or anything that says, now all your problems are going to be gone if you do this thing, unless it's something that's low stakes, low commitment, has protections in order, isn't like one of those big clean cut where you're just like completely separating. If it's something that seems reasonable, and maybe you might not even know if it's reasonable, that's the difficulty. I would say have like people that you trust to cross-reference before you do anything crazy with this aspect, okay? So, let me see what else I wanted to tell you about this. So the energy of rebellion is going to be very strong because of the planet Uranus ruling Aquarius, and now Jupiter's in Aquarius and Saturn's in Aquarius, and then we've got these aspects with Uranus which rules Aquarius, so it's like the energy of like being a rebel, breaking free is going to be very strong, and you will be able. That's one of the very plus sides of this aspect, even though it is a challenging aspect, we could call it, it's a point of tension. You can break free of things that were shackling you. But the more you direct the breaking of the shackles to things like clearing up addictions, clearing up debt, clearing up, overspending, like clearing up bad habits, the more you can be more sure that it's going to be a good thing what you think that you are breaking free from, okay? Because breaking free for the sake of itself might seem very alluring at this time, and people could make some rash decisions that they later regret. So a lot of caution and care has to be given. Okay, let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, so there, along with this can also come like impatience, because you're wanting to make it happen, and towards the middle of the month and things might start slowing down again, or here I'm telling you, like, take a little caution when you move forward. So there could be some of this like frustration with not feeling clear about something. But if you don't feel super clear about something, then definitely I would suggest waiting it out a little longer. The energies will be much more clear in March and April for trying to make some big decisions again, in the event that you're not completely clear at this time. Some other things about Jupiter squaring Uranus are, first of all, that it may coincide with major trajectory changes. And this is an interesting topic now because we've just come out of eclipse season, and we're still kind of getting some leftover things from the November, December eclipses, which definitely are trajectory changing and can really set people on a completely different course. And this aspect does the same thing. So it's very kind of eclipse reminder like in that way, where it's, you could see something come, and if it's coming out of your control and you can't do anything about it, then your choice is to clear up the resistance and accept it, or look for possible solutions or ways around it. And if those can't be found, then, to try to regain your peace on the topic. But it does often coincide with very dramatic life changes, and also changes in fortune. So people may make a bunch of money and all of a sudden be rich. People may lose a bunch of money and all of a sudden, have a reversal of their financial situation. So those types of things can happen. An analogy that I've been thinking of for this aspect has to do with those stories we hear about certain people who have become famous too fast, or become famous too young, or become successful too young or too fast, or just too plain successful and famous, right? Sometimes, and I'm not saying that this is true for all people who are successful or famous, obviously, but there are many people we've heard of that have just not been able to handle that level of change and that extreme change, or that extreme experience, and it has burnt them up. And this energy is very much like that. So many people might be thrown into the spotlight, thrown into fame, thrown into fortune, or thrown into not fortune, just like a big change. But a lot of it can be very positive, like, you get your dream that you worked for, but you need some help and support managing the openness that comes with it. Sometimes this aspect can bring too much freedom and too many options, and the confusion that comes from those things, So definitely, if you're in a position like this where something like this occurs, remember what I said, so that you can seek out support to help you stay grounded and help you stay centered and help you make good choices during the major changes. Because zealotry is another word that I'm using to describe what this energy can bring. And even though the aspect is happening on the 17th of January, this is a big one. So we're feeling this, even a month or more before it's starting to build, and we'll feel it after. It'll flow after. It's like, it's a big one. We're not going to feel it just on the day and the week of this. This is a trend that's kind of building in our subconscious. It's making itself more external the closer we get to the middle of January, and then it's present all through January. Really, this is strong, and then it will start to fade out, into February and into the beginning of March. Then that cycle will be complete with this particular aspect, but it is much more longer lived, and it can create very permanent effects as well, depending on the decisions made. So just be excited if your life is expanding in wonderful ways, but just keep your center and be very cautious with the decisions that you make, understanding all of these pieces now. Okay, so I know I've given you a lot to digest here. If you would like to have even more information on how you can understand and utilize the energies at play from the planetary perspective, then go to anniehelpsyou.com. There you'll see lots of blogs that I've written on astrology and other topics, but there you can also sign up for my free email newsletter. And with that, you will get delivered into your inbox 1 month early my written report of the sweet and salty aspects and their dates and what you can expect from them, as well as my general write-up of the month in a written version so that you can go back over it and digest it. So it's not a transcript of these videos, but it is a summary and some more details about the general energies at play. Okay, so you can get that at anniehelpsyou.com, and you'll also receive my 28-day virtual coaching program called Shine for free as a member of my email community. Okay, so all that's at anniehelpsyou.com. Then you can go to cozybysweetstarlight.com and you'll see my written horoscopes up 1 month early, as well as book recommendations for each sign for each month, depending on the sun, where the sun is for each sign, plus healthy lifestyle and spiritual lifestyle blogs on there. It's a beautiful site. You will love it. So you can check that out, cozybysweetstarlight.com. Definitely also go to my school, Luminous Life Multiversity, at lumelife.com, L-U-M-E life.com. I've got free courses there on health and wellness, also on increasing your abundance. You can see those free courses, and you can see my paid course called Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery Course. If you think I put a lot into the free resources that I give you every month, you should see what I do for the paid resources. It is quite crazy comprehensive, and it will equip you to do whatever you'd like to do in astrology, whether it's just for your own self-development and helping your family and friends, or if you'd like to include it in part of a professional offering, or just do astrology as your work. I will teach you what you need to know to do that. So you can see all of that there. And very exciting, it's definitely time to get my book, Planetology, How to Align with the Natural Rhythms of the Universe. It's out officially on December 8th of 2020. You can pre-order it before then, and you can find it on Audible. It's on Kindle. It's in a print version. It's on Barnes & Noble Nook. It's a beautiful hardcover reference book that you'll go back to time and time again. All of the Books A Million stores and all of the Barnes & Noble stores in the entire US has ordered copies of this book. So you should be able to walk in and get it unless somebody's bought them already. But you can also order them on Amazon and at independent booksellers, many independent booksellers worldwide, and also some big booksellers worldwide have also stocked this book. So you can find it pretty much anywhere. So you can see that, more of that, by just searching for Planetology and my name. And I hope you have a wonderful month. Happy New Year, and I'll see you next month. Bye.